محمد وآل محمد. فما كانت إلى ساعة إذا بولدي الحسين قد أقبل وقال السلام عليك يا أمة، فقلت عليك السلام يا ولدي ويا قرة عيني وثمرة فؤادي. فقال لي يا أمة إني شممت راية طيبة كأنها راية جدي رسول الله صلى الله عليه وآله. فقلت نعم إن جدك وأخاك تحت الكساء. فدنا الحسين نحو الكساء وقال السلام عليك يا جدة، السلام عليك يا من اختار الله، أتأذن لي أن أدخل معكم تحت الكساء؟ فقال عليك السلام يا ولدي ويا شافي أمتي قد أذنت لك. فدخل معهما تحت الكساء. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. فأقبل عند ذلك أبو الحسن علي بن أبي طالب وقال السلام عليك يا بنت رسول الله. فقلت عليك السلام يا أبا الحسن ويا أمير المؤمنين. فقال يا فاطمة إني أشم عندك راية طيبة كأنها راية أخي وابن أمي رسول الله صلى الله عليه وآله. فقلت نعم ها هو ما والديك تحت الكساء. فأقبل علي نحو الكساء وقال السلام عليك يا رسول الله، أتأذن أن أكون معكم تحت الكساء؟ قال له عليك السلام يا أخي ويا وسي وخليفتي وصاحب لواء قد أذنت لك. فدخل علي تحت الكساء. اللهم صل على محمد وآله. ثم أتيت نحو الكساء وقلت السلام عليك يا أبتا يا رسول الله، أتأذن ليكون معكم تحت الكساء؟ قال وعليك السلام يا بنتي ويا بزتي قد أذنت لك. فدخلت تحت الكساء. اللهم صل على محمد وآله. فلما اكتملنا جميعا تحت الكساء أخذ بي رسول الله بطرف الكساء وهما بيد اليمنى إلى السماء وقال اللهم إني هؤلاء أهل البيت وخاصتي وحامتي لحمهم لحمي دمهم دمي يلمني ما يلمهم ويحزنني ما يحزنهم. أنا حرب لمن حاربهم وسلم لمن سالمهم وعدو لمن عداهم ومحب لمن أحبهم. إنهم مني وأنا منهم. فاجعل صلواتك وبركاتك ورحمتك وغفرانك ورضوانك علي وعليهم وعذب عنهم الرجس وطهرهم تطهيرا. اللهم صل على محمد وآله. فقال الله عز وجل يا ملائكة يا سكان السماوات إني ما خلقت السماء مبنية ولا أرضا مدهية ولا قمرا منيرا ولا شمسا مضيئة ولا فلكا يدور ولا بحرا يجري ولا فلكا يسري إلا في محبة هؤلاء الخمسة الذين هم تحت الكساء. اللهم صل على محمد وآله. فقال أمين جبرائيل يا ربي من تحت الكساء؟ قال عز وجل هم أهل بيت النبوة ومعدن الرسالة، هم فاطمة وأبوها وبالها وبنوها. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. فقال جبرائيل يا ربي أتأذن لي أن أهبط إلى الأرض ليكون معهم سادسا؟ فقال الله نعم قد أذنت لك. فهبط الأمين جبرائيل وقال السلام عليك يا رسول الله. العلي الأعلى يقرأك السلام ويخصك بالتحية والإكرام ويقول لك وعزتي وجلالي إني ما خلقت السماء مبنية ولا أرضا مدهية ولا قمرا منيرا ولا شمسا مضيئة ولا فلكا يدور ولا بحرا يجري ولا فلكا يسري إلا لأجلكم ومحبتكم، وقد أذن لي أن أدخل معكم فهل تأذن لي يا رسول الله؟ فقال رسول الله وعليك السلام يا أمين وحي الله إنه نعم قد أذنت لك. فدخل جبرائيل معنا تحت الكساء. اللهم صل على محمد وآله. فقال لأبي إن الله قد أوحى إليكم يقول إنما يريد الله ليذهب عنكم الرجس أهل البيت ويطهركم تطهيرا. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. فقال علي لأبي يا رسول الله أخبرني ما لجلوسنا هذا تحت الكساء من فضل عند الله. فقال النبي صلى الله عليه وآله والذي بعثني بالحق نبيا واصطفاني برسالة نجيا ما ذكر خبرنا هذا في محفل من محافل أهل الأرض وفيه جمع من شيعتنا محبين إلا ونزلت عليهم الرحمة وخفت بهم الملائكة واستغفرت لهم إلى أن تفرقوا فقال علي عليه السلام إذن الله فزنا وفاز شيعتنا وربي الكعبة فقال برسول الله صلى الله عليه وآله يا علي والذي بعثني بالحق نبيا واصطفاني برسالة نجيا ما ذكر خبرنا هذا في محفل من محافل أهل الأرض وفيه جمع من شيعتنا محبين وفيه مهموم إلا وفرجر الله همه ولا مهموم إلا كشف الله همه ولا طالب حاجة إلا وكسى الله حاجته فقال علي عليه السلام إذا الله فزنا وسيدنا كذلك شيعتنا فازوا وسيدوا في الدنيا والآخرة ورب الكعبة اللهم صل على محمد سورة المباركة الفاتحة.
أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم ياسين والقرآن الحكيم إنك لمن المرسلين على صراط مستقيم تنزيل العزيز الرحيم لتنذر قوما ما أنذر آباؤهم فهم غافلون لقد حق القول على أكثرهم فهم لا يؤمنون إنا جعلنا في أعناقهم أغلالا فهي إلى الأذقان فهم مقمحون وجعلنا من بين أيديهم سدا ومن خلفهم سدا فأغشيناهم فهم يبصرون وسواء عليهم أأنذرتهم أم لم تنذرهم لا يؤمنون إنما تنذر من اتبع الذكر وخشي الرحمن بالغيب فبشره بمغفرة وأجر كريم إن نحن نحيي الموتى ونكتب ما قدموا وآثارهم وكل شيء أحصيناه في إمام مبين واضرب لهم مثل أصحاب القرية إذ جاءها المرسلون إذ أرسلنا إليهم اثنين فكذبوهما فعززنا بثالث فقالوا إنا إليكم مرسلون قالوا ما أنتم إلا بشر مثلنا وما أنزل الرحمن من شيء إن أنتم إلا تكذبون قالوا ربنا يعلم إنا إليكم لمرسلون وما علينا إلا البلاغ المبين قالوا إن تطيرنا بكم لئن لم تنتهوا لنرجمنكم ولا يمسنكم منا عذاب أليم قالوا طائركم معكم أئن ذكرتم بل أنتم قوم مسرفون وجاء من أقصى المدينة رجل يسعى قال يا قوم اتبعوا المرسلين اتبعوا من لا يسألكم أجر وهم مهتدون وما لي لا أعبد الذي فطرني وإليه ترجعون أأتخذ من دونه آلهة إن يردني الرحمن بضر لا تغني عني شفاعتهم شيئا ولا ينقذون إني إذا لفي ضلال مبين إني آمنت بربكم فاسمعون قيل ادخلوا الجنة قال يا ليت قومي يعلمون بما غفر لي ربي وجعلني من المكرمين وما أنزلنا على قومه من بعدهم من جند من السماء وما كنا منزلين إن كانت إلا صيحة واحدة فإذا هم خامدون يا حسرة على العباد ما يأتيهم من رسول إلا كانوا به يستهزئون ألم يروا كم أهلكنا قبلهم من القرون إنهم إليهم لا يرجعون وإن كل لما جميع لدينا مهدرون وآيات لهم الأرض ميتة أحييناها وأخرجنا منها حبا فمنه يأكلون وجعلنا فيها جنات من نخيل وأعناب وفجرنا فيها من العيون ليأكلوا من ثمره وما عملته أيديهم أفلا يشكرون سبحان الذي خلق الأزواج كلها مما تنبت الأرض ومن أنفسهم ومما لا يعلمون وآية لهم الليل نسلخ منه النهار فإذا هم مظلمون والشمس تجري لمستقر لها ذلك التقدير العزيز العليم والقمر قدرناه منازل حتى أذاق الأرجون الكظيم لا الشمس ينبغي لها أن تدرك القمر ولا الليل سابق النهار وكل في فلك يسبحون وآية لهم أنا حملنا ذريتهم في الفلك المشحون وخلقنا لهم من مثله ما يركبون وإن نشأ نغرقهم فلا صريخ لهم ولا هم ينقذون إلا رحمة منا ومتاع إلى حين وإذا قيل لهم اتقوا ما بين أيديكم وما خلفكم لعلكم ترحمون وما تأتيهم من آية من آيات ربهم إلا كانوا عنها معرضين وإذا قيل لهم أنفقوا مما رزقكم الله قال الذين كفروا للذين آمنوا أنطعم من لا يشاء الله أطعمه إن أنتم إلا في ضلال مبين ويقولون متى هذا الوعد إن كنتم صادقين ما ينظرون إلا صيحة واحدة تأخذهم وهم يخصمون فلا يستطيعون توصية ولا إلى أهلهم يرجعون والنفخ في السور فإذا هم من الأجداث إلى ربهم ينصلون قالوا يا ويلنا من بعثنا من مرقدنا هذا ما وعد الرحمن وصدق المرسلون إن كانت إلا صيحة واحدة فإذا هم جميع لدينا مهدرون فلا يوم لا تظلم نفس شيئا ولا تجزون إلا ما كنتم تعملون إن أصحاب الجنة اليوم في شغل فاكهون هم وأزواجهم في ظلال على أرائك متكئون لهم فيها فاكهة ولهم ما يدعون سلام قولا من رب رحيم وامتازوا اليوم أيها المجرمون ألم أعهد إليكم يا بني آدم أن لا تعبدوا الشيطان إنه لكم عدو مبين وأن اعبدوني هذا صراط مستقيم ولقد أضل منكم جبلا كثيرا أفلم تكونوا تعقلون هذه جهنم التي كنتم توعظون اصلوها اليوم بما كنتم تكفرون اليوم نختم على أفواههم وتكلمنا أيديهم وتشهد أرجلهم بما كانوا يكسبون ولو نشاء لطمسنا على أعينهم فاستبقوا الصراط فأنى يبصرون ولو نشاء لمسخناه على مكانتهم فما استطاعوا مضيا ولا يرجعون ومن نؤمره ننقصه في الخلق أفلا يعقلون وما علمناه الشعر وما ينبغي له إن هو إلا ذكر وقرآن مبين لينذر من كان حيا ويحق القول على الكافرين أولم يروا أنا خلقنا لهم مما عملت أيدينا أمن فهم لها مالكون وذللناها لهم فمنها ركوبهم ومنها يأكلون ولهم فيها منافع ومشارب أفلا يشكرون واتخذوا من دون الله آلهة لعلهم ينصرون لا يستطيعون نصرهم وهم لهم جند مهدرون فلا يحزنك قولهم إنا نعلم ما يسرون وما يعلنون أولم يرى الإنسان أنا خلقناه من نطفة فإذا هو خصيم مبين وضرب لنا مثلا ونسي خلق العليم قال من يحيي العظام وهي رميم قل يحييها الذي أنشأها أول مرة وهو بكل خلق عليم الذي جعل لكم من شجر الأخضر نارا فإذا أنتم منه توقدون أوليس الذي خلق السماوات والأرض بقادر على أن يقول لك مثلهم بلى وهو الخلاق العليم إنما أمره إذا أراد شيئا أن يقول له كن فيكون فسبحان الذي بيده ملكوت كل شيء وإليه ترجعون صدق الله العظيم.
أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على خير خلقه وخاتم أنبيائه ورسله سيدنا وشفيعنا أبي القاسم محمد وعلى آل بيته الطيبين الطاهرين المعصومين المنتجبين رب اشرح لي صدري ويسر لي أمري واحلل عقدة من لساني يفقه قولي أما بعد فقد قال سبحانه وتعالى في كتابه المجيد وهو أصدق القائلين بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم يا أيها الناس اتقوا ربكم الذي خلقكم من نفس واحدة وخلق منها زوجها وبث منهما رجالا كثيرا ونساء صلوات. I'm so happy and so delighted to be with you and to jointly commemorate this momentous occasion together, the birthday of the radiant and the noble lady Sayyeda Nisa al-Alameen Fatima al-Zahra alayhi salatu afdalu salam salawat. We are also observing the beginning of the marriage journey, right? For Bushra Anis and Adam Jivraj. Are they here? Adam? He's on his way? Okay. So I know who to pick on. Okay. Well, we pray to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that may He shower you, the couple, from His infinite love and blessing, and to always protect you and insulate you from the trials and tribulations of this world. Salawat. Now this Quranic verse is for you, Adam. The Quranic verse that I recited after the preamble applies to all of us, those who are married, those who are planning on getting married, prospective clients, and also for humanity in the terms of the story of creation. How the Quran talks about creation of men and women as being completely gender neutral on parity, compared to other scriptures, which talks about the origin from Adam was born and then Eve is born from the rib and so and so. This is the way the Quran talks about, and remember, the context is 7th century Arabia. It says, Ya ayyuhan nas tattaqu rabbakum alladhi khalaqakum. O humanity, be God aware and be reverent and be mindful of your Lord, who created you from a single soul. Min nafsin wahida. Doesn't say male, doesn't say female. It's remarkable. 7th century tribal society. وَخَلَقَ مِنْهَا زَوْجَهُ. And from this particular soul, He created the pair or its mate. Doesn't say male or female. وَبَثَّ مِنْهُمَا رِجَالًا كَثِيرًا وَنِسَاءً. And from them, God says, I created and dispersed and spread out men and women. No mention of men or women. No mention of Adam or Eve. 7th century gender neutrality, gender empowerment. We are not talking about 19th century, where you have the Declaration of Human Rights, talks about, gender equity and so on. If you look at the story of creation in the Quran, it never blames Eve. Whatever the mistake was, whatever the error was, the Quran always addresses both of them. It doesn't regard Eve as the temptress, Eve as the one who somehow deceived and manipulated and somehow deceived Adam into this particular mistake. It addresses both. In the Arabic language, you have singular, you have dual for two people, and then you have plural. The Quran consistently uses in its verb either, or in all cases, it's dual. It never addresses only Eve as the one who was somehow to be responsible for this fall of Adam and Eve. More importantly, the Quran says that whatever the mistake was, both of them sought forgiveness from God, both of them were forgiven, and that was the end of the story. There is no inheritance of so-called sin or transmission of sin. That means we are born pure. The important point is, in the 7th century Arabia, when women had no rights, they were regarded as chattels and property. When the Quran talks about there was female infanticide, the Quran says when the birth of a daughter is announced, the father feels a lot of grief and sorrow. He's wondering, what should I do? Should I accept this humiliation and hide myself from the others and not tell them about the birth of my daughter? Or should I bury her alive? In that society of female infanticide, the Quran is saying, I created you from min nafsin wahida. Salawat. One of the ways of proving the miraculous nature of the Quran, its divine origin, as you know, it talks about eloquence, it talks about prediction. One of the ways is to talk about social legislation in the 7th century. The social regulation of the 7th century, for example, this gender equity, is something that is completely miraculous, unheard of in that 7th century Arabia. And when the Quran talks about this kind of very innovative social norms and social values, it shows us the origin is not a human being. The origin is something that is divine and came directly from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Salawat. So often at times I tell my friends, men and women, that if you look at the scripture and contextualize it in the 7th century, you will see the Quran is the most feminist document, in quotation marks, because I'm not so comfortable with the term feminism. I have some reservations. But if you look at the scripture and contextualize in the 7th century, not the 21st century, you will see that it is radically a feminist document. And there are so many misunderstandings about how the Quran portrays the status of women in Islam. This is something that we have to work on and make sure that the media does not capitalize and try to somehow misinform and take advantage of some of the, taking a verse in isolation here and there. Let me introduce you, before I begin the main part of my sermon, two very interesting books that have come out recently that talk about the Israel-Palestine conflict. One is by a historian, a Jewish Israeli historian, a scholar. He has written many works, by the way, and all of them are worthy of reading, but the one that is of interest to us today is something that is very brief and very concise. It's called A Very Brief History of Israel-Palestine Conflict. It gives you an overview, a panoramic view of the origin of this problem that we are seeing unfolding today in the social media, in front of our eyes, with the silence, deafening silence of the world. We who believe in universal human rights, very selective application of human rights. In that book, this Jewish scholar, he gives you a historically accurate and a very precise account of how this conflict began. It did not begin with the Balfour Declaration in the 20th century. The origin is much earlier. So he begins with the inception of this conflict and traces its origin and brings it all the way to post-October 7th. I think you will enjoy it. And it's very brief. Even the title of the book is A Very Brief History of Israel-Palestine Conflict. It's no more than 125 pages. And I think we need to get historically factual information when there is so much misinformation and disinformation and propaganda. If you look at the media, corporate media I'm talking about, it is very biased. I don't know if you agree with me. If you look at some of the social media, the popular one, it is very asymmetrical. It's very skewed. It's very biased in favor of one. There's a lot of information that is not revealed to you. There's a lot of information that is totally inaccurate and wrong, and therefore, for us to be able to engage in a very intelligent dialogue, we need to be well informed. As public intellectuals, we should know our history very well. And to be able to make any kind of intelligent conversation with anyone on this issue, you must be totally familiar, and therefore try to read this book. His author by the name is Ilan Pappé. Ilan Pappé. The second work, very quickly, I want to bring to your attention, you will enjoy, is by an award-winning journalist by the name of Ta-Nehisi Coates. You see, some of the brothers have heard about him, I'm sure, because he is a very brave journalist. He is a journalist with integrity. He went to Senegal, he went to North Carolina, and he went to West Bank and Tel Aviv, and he is giving his eyewitness account. He's trying to understand the phenomena of racism, the phenomena of apartheid, the phenomena of dehumanization, and he comes back with an interesting, honest account of what he saw in his trip. No holds barred. And you really, if you read him, you will begin to understand why I say he is a brave journalist with integrity, with a conscience. He is not hiding away for fear of, retaliation, losing his career, I don't know, not losing this bonus and promotion. He's saying honestly whatever he has seen. And you'll be amazed. You'll be amazed to read the account of the suffering that goes on in Palestine that you may never have seen in the corporate media, so to speak. Salawat. We should love to read books. I think it's very good. Sometimes you can even have audio books. If you're a bit lazy, you don't want to read, well, listen to the audio, right? There are so many other ways nowadays of understanding, but we need to familiarize ourselves with issues and not rely upon the other media that somehow they will teach us. Let me begin by reading for you a statement from the book of Dr. Ali Shariati on Fatima. When he is concluding his book, he wants to summarize in essence, how can I capture the whole of Fatima in my conclusion? This is how he starts. He says, I wanted to say, خواستم بگویم فاطمه دختر خدیجه کبرا هست دیدم که فاطمه نیست. I wanted to say that Fatima is the daughter of the great Khadija. But then I realized this does not cover the whole of Fatima. So then I said, okay, let me say Fatima دختر محمد است. دیدم که فاطمه نیست. It doesn't capture the totality of Fatima. Yes, she is the daughter of the Prophet, but it doesn't capture the whole of Fatima. He said, okay, let me try this then. خواستم بگویم فاطمه همسر علی. دیدم که فاطمه نیست. Let me say that she is the wife of the brave paragon of virtue of social justice, Imam Ali, alayhi salatu afdalu salam. Shariati says, I still felt I'm falling short in describing the essence of this noble lady. I said, no, this cannot capture the whole of Fatima. خواستم بگویم فاطمه مادر حسنین هست. Let me say she is the mother of Hassan and Hussein. Even then he said, I'm not content. I don't feel I have captured the totality of Sayyeda Fatima. He says, let me try again. خواستم بگویم فاطمه مادر زینب است. Let me say she is the mother of Zainab, right? A noble, virtuous lady. He said, nah, still Fatima is. This doesn't capture the whole of Fatima. He says, inha hame has. All this is true. But in hame Fatima has. All of this is true. At the same time, it does not capture the totality of Fatima. The only way to capture and describe, say, the Fatima in its totality and exhaustively, says Shariati, is to say, Fatima, Fatima has. Fatima is Fatima. Sallu ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad. We learn tremendous amount of lessons from Lady Fatima that I will narrate for you. Also, I want to see if there is time to talk briefly about the khutbah, which is famously known as the khutbah of Fadak. There was a hypothesis, a prediction that was made by some sociologists that with the onset of modernity, with the onset of urbanization, science and technology, prosperity, the recourse to human intellect, rationality, enlightenment, they believe that as modernization begins to catch speed, religion is going to go on the decline. That is to say, there's an inverse relationship between modernization, secularization, and religion. There's inverse correlation. And they were predicting somehow that religion will fade away, or at least it will lose its importance. And some sociologists even predicted that religion will begin its end, so to speak. It will be eradicated. Now, many people who had predicted the end of religion had to revise their predictions because they realized that in spite of modernization, in spite of science and technology, religion continues to play a core part in human identity, in self-identity. And therefore, religion is well and good and here to stay. But one has to acknowledge that religion in North America has declined, undoubtedly. Many data has been collected statistically and has proven that for some reason, there are many variables at play, we don't know exactly why, but there is certainly a decline in religiosity in North America. Not so in other parts of the world. If you look at Eastern Europe, if you look at Africa, if you look at Asia, if you look at Latin America, religion actually has been on the rise. It is increasing in terms of religiosity. But in North America, there is this phenomena that somehow there is a decline, not a dramatic decline, but there is a decline in religiosity when it comes to North America. The question is, what are some of the variables? And there is a discussion among scholarship that is not my aim for tonight's topic. What I want to say is that human desire is for some kind of religion to be there. It is not possible to uproot the need for religion because it is part of human desire, human spirituality. We are looking for meaning of religion. We are seeking, we are seeking purpose of life. We are seeking a sense of community and solidarity. We are seeking a relationship with a divine, relationship with a super transcendent, supernatural power, whatever it may be, but we are seeking something that is bigger than us. You may call it a bigger intelligence, whatever it may be. But there is this human desire to have some kind of relationship with the transcendent, with the divine, because we want to have that kind of a relationship of dialogue and conversation, especially a relationship that comes very important in times of crisis. In times of challenges and tribulations, you need a shelter, you need a refuge where you can speak to the person that you know who can resolve your problems. We all face crisis. There is a desire for human being understands that there is a power beyond, there is a higher power. And this need of human being will always necessitate the presence of religion at all times in all civilizations. Salawat. Religion also gives us ethical norms, ethical values. Tells us how to govern ourselves as an ethical, moral human being, gives us a moral compass. How to develop your character. What does it mean to have integrity? What does it mean to have justice? And therefore, we need role models who exemplify those ethical models. The Quran talks about the Prophet being uswatun hasana. The Prophet is an excellent example, says the Quran, for you. Khuluqun azim. He is a great example for us that we try to emulate, we try to follow in his step because he gives us that ethical parameters, that ethical paradigm, the ethical role model. So we need role models. And today we are commemorating and remembering another role model, the daughter of the Prophet, Fatima Zahra alayhi salatu afdalu salam, salawat. We learn many lessons from Lady Fatima, and I think they are applicable to both women and men. They are not particularly applicable only to women because the lessons that she preaches us, that teaches us, are virtues that are of universal importance. They are not gender specific. For example, the virtue of speak truth to power. Whenever you see injustice, don't stay silent. Sayyeda Fatima could not remain silent when she saw injustice. No matter what the consequences are, you will see, very brave soul. The lesson of patience and endurance, the lesson of devotion, the lesson of economic independence, the lesson of you don't allow others to oppress you. Those who snatch away your rights, you must have enough empowerment. You must have enough empowerment to go and claim what belongs to you, rightfully belongs to you. Not say, well, I will just attend to it on the day of judgment. No, even in this world, there is empowerment for social justice. And you will see these lessons. Now, very quickly from her young life, we are told by many historians in many accounts, Sunni and Shia accounts, that when she was young, she used to accompany the Prophet when the Prophet's mission and message was still not yet accepted by the Quraysh. So many a times they would persecute him, they would call him names and slander him, and sometimes they would throw stuff from the balcony. On one occasion, says the historian, somebody had thrown something from the balcony, and he recalls that it was Fatima, who was at a young age, who uses her hand to clean away from the face of the Prophet the dust and the dirt that had been thrown on him. She was representing that sense of devotion, and that's why the Prophet at one time, he said, Ummu Abiha. She's the mother of, right? I mean, she is representing kind of mother in terms of being with the Prophet at all times. Ummu Abiha, her father's mother, salawat. During her marital life, she married Imam Ali, a symbol of social justice and asceticism. Again, you see, she cultivated a culture in the home environment that brought forth the individuals of Hassan and Hussein and Sayyeda Zainab. All were nourished and nurtured in the surrounding of Sayyeda Fatima Zahra. We look after the death of the Prophet. We see that once again she represents the voice of justice. She symbolized that leadership when she realized that some unjust act has been done. She did not remain silent. I'm talking about the impromptu meeting that was organized at Saqifa to select the next caliph after the death of the Prophet. And the majority of the tribal leaders had endorsed Abu Bakr. Sayyida Fatima, when she found out, she began to go and talk with women of the Muhajirin and the Ansar. She would go and talk with them, tell them about Imam Ali's virtues, try to persuade them that what has been done is an act of colossal injustice, and the consequences and ramifications are going to be horrific. This particular error and mistake has to be corrected. Imagine, we think of Sayyida Fatima that after the death of the Prophet, she was certainly very much in grief and sorrow. At the same time, she was still very much an activist for social justice, that a wrong has been done. And she began to, and by the way, many of the women, Muhajirin and the Ansar, they were persuaded by Sayyida Fatima. Interesting. But not men. At least in the historical account, not many men were convinced. I don't know why. We say all the time that, the iman of, women is less and so and so. I know in this historical account, it has been recorded by both historians on both sides of the story that many of the Muhajirin, the Meccan women and the Madinese women, they were persuaded by the arguments of Sayyida Fatima that this particular mistake and blunder has to be corrected, otherwise the consequences are going to be very grave. And they were, actually. If you look at history, our history has become full of blood shortly after the death of the Prophet, and Sayyida Fatima had almost predicted what the consequences are going to be. So even after her death, only 10 days had elapsed since the passing away of the Holy Prophet. She was full of grief, full of sorrow. It was an earth-shaking event for her. At the same time, she had that stamina and the endurance and the courage and the bravery to go and talk to the women and try to convince them. That talks about leadership. That talks about social justice. That talks about economic independence. And you are talking about, imagine, 7th century patriarchal society, where there is, the domination of the men over women. Women are treated as chattels and properties. You are dealing with the patriarchal society. But Sayyeda Fatima makes a point that there is women empowerment to speak. They are not to be silenced. They are not to be segregated and somehow put away in a place where they are completely, out of the way, so to speak. She's right there in the social public sphere. Now she wants to give a sermon. She mentions to the caliph that this property of Fadak was gifted to her by her father, the Prophet. And the caliph said, you have to bring witnesses because you don't have any kind of written record. So she brings witnesses as well. Ayman, Imam Ali, Hassan, Hussein, who testified that yes, this property was gifted to the Sayyeda Fatima, to his daughter in the Prophet's own lifetime. One of the things that we know is that she used to manage this property. It was a big, fertile agricultural land, generating quite a bit of revenue. And Sayyeda Fatima was the one who was managing the property in the Prophet's time, at least for 3 years that we know before his death. She was the one employing, and she was the one who was dispersing the proceeds and all the income that was coming. She was the one who was distributing it. So we do know that much. The proof, says the caliph, is not sufficient because they are related to you. And also, the testimony of women is supposed to be half the testimony of women. The argument was. And therefore, it was suggested that no, it cannot be given to you as a legitimate property of yours because there is lack of evidence of transfer of ownership. So Sayyida Fatima says, well, there's another alternative as well. Her door was connected to the mosque of the Prophet. She wants to go and give a public sermon on social justice, on economic independence. She could have easily gone through the door that was connected to the Prophet's mosque, but no, she decides to go from the main gate. She has an entourage of women that accompany her, and she wants to go to the main gate because she wants to make this a public speech, a public appearance where people are going to pay attention and people are going to listen to what she has to say. She is the Prophet's daughter. Salawat. So she begins her talk. Actually, the title of the sermon is called Khutbah Fadak, but it's not about Fadak actually. Fadak occupies a very minor component of the sermon. Her focus is something else. Her focus is far more fundamental, far more foundational. You think Fatima was worried about that agricultural land? You think she was disputing about property? You think the dispute is about land? No. It was something much more profound and much more fundamental, you will see. How does the khutbah begin? I won't read the khutbah, it's quite long, but if you get a chance, you should read it. There are translations available. Some are good, some are not so good. But she begins first and foremost by glorifying God, by praising God. In a very beautiful, eloquent way, full of eloquence, full of balagha. Then she talks about prophethood. Then she talks about the value and the majesty of the Quran. She talks about the rituals, ibadat. She talks about some of the virtues. She talks about, for example, prayers and fasting and zakat. You know, in the public announcement that you put for this program, somebody had very intelligently had chosen this particular part of her sermon, which says, "Az-zakat tazkiyatun lin-nafs wa nima'an fir rizq." I don't know who that person was, but you were very intelligent. Somebody had chosen this particular verse from the khutbah of Sayyeda Fatima, that zakat purifies your soul and is going to increase your livelihood and sustenance. One of the meaning of zakat is growth. Zakat means purification. Zakat, at its verb also means, the root meaning also means is going to grow. So when you give in zakat, so zakat is important, must be important, right? Do you agree? Otherwise, Sayyida Fatima would not have mentioned, after mentioning prayers, she mentions az-zakat tazkiyatan lin-nafs wa nima'an fir rizq. Salawat. She talks about the virtues of Imam Ali. That during the mission of the Prophet, the ministry of the Prophet at the beginning and also throughout his ministry, whenever there was a particular crisis that others could not solve, the Prophet relied upon Imam Ali, and she talked about the virtues of her husband, Imam Ali, and tried to make a case. The point that she's trying to make about fadak and connecting it with Imam Ali is this. For example, she says, "Ayyuhan nas, O people, i'lamu anni Fatima wa abi Muhammad." Know that I'm Fatima and my father is Muhammad. She's trying to develop that sense of relationship of authority. The relationship of transmission of authority, of religious authority that transmitted to the daughter. Another place it says, فَإِن تَعْزُوهُ وَتَعْرِفُوهُ. If you know and you recognize the Prophet, you will know, تَجِدُوهُ أَبِيدُونَ نِسَائِكُمْ. The Prophet was my father, not the father of any of your women. وَأَخَا إِبْنِ عَمِّي دُونَ رِجَالِكُمْ. He was the brother of my cousin, not the brother of any of you men. She's trying to develop that linkage. When she talks about fadak, she's trying to say that I have this entitlement to fadak because of my relationship with the Prophet, and that same authority and relationship also applies when it comes to the transmission of the Prophet's religious authority and the religious wilaya. Salawat. Do you see the point? The issue is not property. When did you ever see that, say, the Fatima was concerned about material things? They used to give even their food at the time of iftar. We have a Quranic verse on this. Imam Ali was not known for as a person who used to accumulate wealth, like many of us do, by the way. But Imam Ali says in one of the khutbah, I don't expect this from you guys. Imam Ali says, what I do, I will read you the khutbah. Imam Ali says, I don't expect the same high standards from you, the community, that he used to apply on himself. He had a much higher standard. So he realized that we are weak. We have issues. You know, we have issues. But when did you ever hear that Imam Ali was hankering after material things? Even during his Khilafah, he says, if I wanted to, I could have had accumulated gold. I could have been eating pure honey or pure wheat. I could be dressing myself in pure silk. But I didn't do this. So it cannot be something to do with property rights. It has to do with something far grander and far more fundamental, and that has to do, as I said, with the transmission of authority. Salawat. Sayyeda Fatima then talks with the Ansar. She had higher hopes from the Ansar than the Muhajirin. She talks with them in that public assembly. Nobody could contest that she is not the Prophet's daughter. 10 days have only elapsed, and look at this brave soul. Full of courage, full of confidence, completely fearless, ability to speak in that assembly. You know, where there is injustice, you speak. You don't remain silent. The consequences could be grave, like this Ta-Nehisi quotes, but he speaks. He speaks fearlessly. If you read his book, you'll be amazed how brave and person of integrity he is. He's an African American. She speaks. She speaks to the Ansar and addresses them directly. She says, "Oh, Ansar." Talks about their positive qualities, that they were the ones who gave shelter to the Prophet. They were the ones who supported the Prophet, gave him this particular security and so on. And then she talks about her expectations from them. That I have expectation from you that you should correct this error. The transmission of Khilafah, says Sayyeda Fatima, was a big mistake in history. It has to be corrected, otherwise the consequences are going to be extremely grave. And we see what happens in history. Only after a few years, we have bloodshed, civil war, the Umayyad dynasty, and so on. So she had almost predicted the consequences. Did she receive any positive affirmation of what she said and a positive response? She does not receive. Remember, we are living in a tribal society. In tribal society, tribal leaders are the ones who hold on to all the powers, and the other people are more or less, followers. So this was the situation. She returns back to her house. Salawat. The point I want to conclude on is, what is our responsibility? A great injustice was done, acutely painful, undoubtedly painful. Imam Ali says that for these 25 years, for him, he says, sabartu, I exercise patience. He says, wa fil aini qadha. These 25 years, I felt like there was a speck of dust in my eye. It was that much irritating. وَحَلْقِي شَجَى. And in my throat, I used to feel that something is stuck. It used to interfere with my breathing. So it wasn't easy for Imam Ali. Would you agree? It wasn't easy for Imam Ali for 25 years. I want to say, how did he behave with the companions? How did he behave with the Ansar, with the Muhajirin during his life? And if we believe that we need role models, like Sayyeda Fatima, if we believe that we need role models like the Prophet Imam Ali, and we should try to follow in their footsteps, we should see how did the Imam behave. If anybody had a right to get very angry and very upset and spew hatred and animosity and ill will, it was Imam Ali. He had gone through all this suffering that he says, I felt there was a speck in my eye. There was something in my throat, a foreign object that I could hardly breathe. Very serious statement. How did he behave? And this is what I want to conclude on this point. Salawat. By the way, a very nice translation of the Nahj al-Balagha has come out. Superb translation by Brill, by a lady professor, Dr. Tahira Qutbuddin. I went to the Brill website. I could easily download. I think probably it's easily accessible. It's an exceptionally accurate translation with a very beautiful introduction to the Nahj al-Balagha in terms of trying to contextualize the book. You should, I think, try to read this. In this Nahj al-Balagha, Imam Ali makes reference to Fadak only once. And what does he say? Imam Ali, who has gone through all this particular grief and aggravation and anguish, the khutbah is talking about one of his governor that he had sent to Basra by the name of Ibn Hunayf. Imam Ali got the news that your governor had gone to a very sumptuous and a very elaborate feast, a banquet. He was invited by a group of rich, eminent people, and he accepted the invitation, and he went there. Imam Ali could not accept this kind of behavior from his governor. So he sends him a letter. Ibn Hunayf, I hear that you did this. I did not expect this from you. I did not expect this from my governor. When you regard me as your leader and somebody as your role model, I did not expect this kind of behavior from you. فَأَسْرَعْتَ إِلَيْهِ. Imam says, and I hear that you rush towards it. You are very eager to go to this banquet with the rich people. And these people are not at all concerned about the poor. They kind of disregard them. They disregard the poor. But you are very anxious to go there. Ibn Hunayf, I don't expect this from you. And Imam Ali says, I'm your role model. Look at me. I'm happy and content with these two rags of garments. I'm content with a meager amount of food, says the Imam. But I don't expect the same standards from you. Doesn't expect the same standards from us. Right? We like to have good cars. We like to have good house. Right? But the Imam is saying, I don't expect these high standards from you, but I do expect certain kind of discipline. I do expect certain kind of restraint, certain kind of self-regulation, that you would not have accepted this kind of a banquet where you have variety of foods and the conglomerate of rich people. I was expecting that you would not have done this. But at the same time, Imam Ali says, I don't have the high standards. So we have some kind of discount or takhfif, salawat. The Imam said, if I wanted to gather gold, I could have done so. This is during his Khilafah. If I wanted to amass riches, I could have done so. If I wanted to have pure honey and silken clothes, but I have chosen not to do it because I should represent the weakest member of the community. If somebody has gone hungry, I should make sure that I don't go sleep with a full belly. I have to represent the weakest member of the community. And this is what I want to say. Imam then brings fadak in this conversation, tangentially, just accidentally, because it is discussing about property and wealth. So Imam says, Bala, kanat fi aydiyana fadak. Min kulli ma adallathu as-sama. Yes, we possessed fadak. Of everything that was under the sky, the only thing that we possessed was, Imam Ali says, fadak. فشحت عليها نفوس قوم وسخت عنها نفوس آخرين. There was a group of people who were greedy to take away that property, that land, fertile land. And there was a group of people who were generous and they were prepared to give it away. Referring to Imam Ali and Sayyeda Fatima. They let go. They didn't make a big fight over it. And then the Imam says, وَنِئِمَ الْحَقَمُ اللَّهِ. That's the key. The Imam says, I leave it to God's arbitration, to God's judgment. وَنِئِمَ الْحَقَمُ اللَّهِ. He could have said many things like we do. So-and-so is like this, and create hatred, and we see sectarian warfare, and people are being killed because of what we say. Not deliberately, it's not our intention, but because we create a culture of hatred and sectarianism, and when this goes in the social media, and our Sunni brothers, when they listen to all these things, they get very upset because they regard the Sahaba in a different light. So they go and kill the Shia. They call them apostates. They call them mulhid. Recently in Pakistan, only a few weeks ago, they killed how many Shia and how many Sunnis were killed? The Imam says, no, وَنِئِمَ الْحَقَمُ اللَّهِ. That's the key. If anybody had a right to talk about all this injustice and all the pain and all the anguish and all the suffering, the Imam says, I felt like there was a speck in my eye. I felt like I was being suffocated for 25 years. He doesn't say anything. وَنِعْمَ الْحَقَمُ اللَّهِ. The subject is closed. He goes on to another subject. وَمَا أَصْنَعُ بِفَدَقْ وَغَيْرِ فَدَقْ. What do I have to do with Fadak or any other land? It is immaterial to me. وَمَا أَصْنَعُ بِفَدَقْ وَغَيْرِ فَدَقْ. If there was any other property, a majestic property, what does it mean to me? It is immaterial to me, it's insignificant to me. Important, right? He's saying, we say in Farsi, be khuda barguzar kardam. I have given it to God. I have transferred it to the God's judgment and God's arbitration. I'm not going to engage because Imam Ali doesn't want to create this hatred. Did you see how he used to conduct himself with the companions? He used to go and give them advice. He used to go and give them sound advice. He used to protect them. You know, when Uthman was under siege and they were going to invade his palace and kill him, Uthman calls Imam Ali, I need your help. Imam Ali said, yes, I'm here to help you. I'm prepared to come and help you. I don't want this situation I had to defuse the crisis. If I can somehow prevent this from ending in bloodshed, I'm right there. Imam Ali goes there. He counsels him. But he realizes that he doesn't listen to his counsel. He accepts what Imam Ali says. Once Imam Ali is gone, he turns around and he does exactly what he was doing. Nepotism and favoritism and so on. Uthman calls him again. Imam Ali tells Ibn Abbas, Wallahi laqad dafa'tu anhu hatta khashitu an akuna athima. Beautiful. Imam Ali tells Ibn Abbas that I have tried to defend this person. I have tried to persuade him and lead him in the right direction to such an extent. I have done my utmost to such an extent that I fear that maybe I am on the verge of sinning now. I've tried to persuade him and counsel him to an extent now I fear that I may be now bordering upon even sinning if I go too far. That's Imam Ali. The point being, فَنِئِمَ الْحَقَّ بُاللَّهِ, Imam Ali is trying to create cultures of harmony, cultures of reconciliation, cultures of respect, cultures of mutual appreciation, cultures of coexistence. The Imam is not seeking cultures of divisiveness. The Imam is not seeking cultures of hatred, of animosity. You know, cultures of sectarianism. Don't you agree? If anybody had a right, Imam Ali had a right to go at length and talk about Fadak and what happened to Fadak, especially when, say, the Fatima was so annoyed. Fatima was very upset, no doubt about it. Both in Sunni and Shia literature, by the way. This is not something that is only by the Shia literature. Even in the Sunni hadith collection, it is mentioned that Sayyeda Fatima was very upset. Was so upset that she said, I don't want the companions to participate in my burial ceremony. Bury me at night. Imam Ali, bury me at night because I don't want their... So she's very upset. Very upset. And this is very painful for the Shia. I agree with you. I agree with you. I'm not disputing the pain and agony that we feel as the lovers of Ahlul Bayt, as the lover of Sayyida Fatima. I'm just saying, what does the role model have to do? How does he behave? How does Imam Ali behave? He says, فَنِئِمَ الْحَقَمُ اللَّهِ. I have handed over this particular portfolio, this particular case, in the hand of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, who is the best of judges and the best of arbiters. Salawat. Now, I don't know if I have convinced you, but I have to conclude. Even if I have not convinced you, I can tell you other things, but I have to now stop, otherwise my 45 minutes is running out. Have I convinced you? Be very honest. Have I convinced you that we should create cultures of optimism and hope and cultures of harmony? Have I convinced? Yeah, I like youngsters. They always agree with me. Good. Youngsters are brave. Yeah, think about it. If my wording and my lecture is going to create bloodshed, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, if you shed the blood of one innocent soul, you have wiped off the whole of humanity, do you think it's the right thing for me to do if I, by my wording and by my phraseology and by my statements, if it is going to lead to bloodshed of another innocent human being? Should I not follow Imam Ali? Imam Ali could have created chaos. You don't think he had followers? He had many followers. He could have created bloodshed if he wanted to. Very easily, to gain leadership and power. But no. The Imam in that khutbah, I didn't read for you the rest of it. The Imam in that khutbah continues, and he says, if I haven't convinced you yet, the Imam says, what do I have to do with Fadak or any other land, by the way? He says, وَالنَّفْسُ مَظَانُّهَا فِي غَدٍ حَدَث. When I know that tomorrow every human soul is going to go in the grave, what do I have to do with Fadak? تَنْقَطِئُ فِي ظُلْمَتِهِ آثَارُهَا. And when the soul goes into the grave, even the traces of his body are going to decompose. What do I have to do with Fadak? وَتَغِيبُ أَخْبَارُهَا. And people will even begin to forget about that person. If he was very famous and very popular, the akhbaruha, after a while, they dissipate. People begin to forget. So the Imam is saying, what do I have to do with this land? Right? You see what the lesson the Imam is teaching us. Sallu ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad. And my last statement for you, and I promise. There are some historians and some people who have said that when the Prophet used to respect, say, the Fatima in public, for example, he would get up and make, say, the Fatima sit in his place. He would make sure that he greets her after he comes back from any mission. He would bid farewell to her, and so very respectful. They said, well, he was trying to establish a precedent in that Arab culture where they didn't used to respect women. He was trying to show to the Arabs that, listen, you have to respect your women. You have to respect your daughters. And that's why he was showing this kind of adoration or veneration and respect for, say, the Fatima. But it didn't have anything to do inherently with, say, the Fatima. I just tell you this, and you will see that it has to do something with the essence of, say, the Fatima. You all know, I'm sure, this hadith. The Prophet said, Fatimatu bad'atu minni. This cannot be dismissed as something the Prophet was doing in public just to display to the public. The Prophet said, Fatima is an integral, essential part of me. She's part of my soul. Now, this statement cannot be dismissed. Yeah, he was just showing it for the public that, be kind. He said, Fatimatu bad'atu minni, available, as I said, in both Sunni and Shia literature. It goes even further. That Fatima is a part of me, somebody who harms her, who annoys her, who injures her. Man adaha faqad adani, would also be injuring. I'm saying all this is there in our literature. But I'm saying, just remember what I showed you today, that what was the attitude of our Imam? What was the attitude of the person who was the most deserving to go and talk about all these issues that we normally talk about and create a culture of hatred? Sallu ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad.
محمد وآل محمد صلوات اللہم صلی علی محمد وآل محمد. Mu'minin wa mu'minat, Assalamu alaikum. I'd like to start off by congratulating you all on the Wiladat bi Fatima Salamun alayha. And from all of us, I'd also like to congratulate the Imam of our time, Imam Sahib al-Asr wa Zaman. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. I'll be reciting a short kalam on Bibi Fatima, followed by a mankhabat. ایک غدیری انداز سے باواز بلند سے بلند صلوات بھیج دیں. اللہم صلی علی محمد و آل محمد. باری دیگر صلوات. اللہم صلی علی محمد و آل محمد. فاطمہ زہرا یہ تیری تربیت کی شان ہے. فاطمہ زہرا یہ تیری تربیت کی شان ہے. بچہ بچہ تیرے گھر کا بولتا قرآن ہے. بچہ بچہ تیرے گھر کا بولتا قرآن ہے. باپ سے پہچان ہے بیٹی کی ہوتی ہے مگر. باپ سے پہچان ہے بیٹی کی ہوتی ہے مگر. تو وہ بیٹی ہے جو اپنے باپ کی پہچان ہے. فاطمہ زہرا یہ تیری تربیت کی شان ہے. اور محمد وآل محمد صلوات. سورہ قدر کا یہ نعرہ ہے. سورہ قدر کا یہ نعرہ ہے. آپ کیا جانے فاطمہ کیا ہے. آپ کیا جانے فاطمہ کیا ہے. آپ کیا جانے فاطمہ کیا ہے. جس کو مختار امر کہتے ہیں, جس کی راتوں کو قدر کہتے ہیں, صبح کو جس کی فجر کہتے ہیں, شام کو جس کی عصر کہتے ہیں, ہر زمانے پہ جس کا قبضہ ہے. آپ کیا جانے فاطمہ کیا ہے. آپ کیا جانے فاطمہ کیا ہے. قدر جس کو صدا قضا نے کہا, سیدہ جس کو مرتضیٰ نے کہا, اپنی ماں جس کو مصطفیٰ نے کہا, کنز مقوی جسے خدا نے کہا, جس کی چوکھٹ پہ کعبہ جھکتا ہے، آپ کیا جانے فاطمہ کیا ہے، آپ کیا جانے فاطمہ کیا ہے، جس کی چادر کو آسماں کہیے، اپنے بچوں کا صاحباں کہیے، اس کو الحمد کا نشاں کہیے، حشر کی دھوپ میں اما کہیے، کل ایمان کا جو مسلح ہے، آپ کیا جانے فاطمہ کیا ہے، آپ کیا جانے فاطمہ کیا ہے، جس کا بابا رسول عاشق رب، جس کے بیٹے حسن حسین لقب، یہ جہاں میں ہے سب سے اچھا نسب، جس کا شوق ہے علی امیر عرب، سورہ نور جس کا شجرہ ہے، آپ کیا جانے فاطمہ کیا ہے، آپ کیا جانے فاطمہ کیا ہے، یہ گھرانہ سقی ملا ہم کو، اسی گھر سے نبی ملا ہم کو، ہر وصی ہر ولی ملا ہم کو، ایک ولی کیا علی ملا ہم کو، اسی گھر سے خدا بھی پایا ہے، آپ کیا جانے فاطمہ کیا ہے، آپ کیا جانے فاطمہ کیا ہے، در پہ جو سر جھکا نہیں سکتا، دین ماجد وہ پا نہیں سکتا، ہر کوئی در کو پا نہیں سکتا، ایرا غیرہ تو آ نہیں سکتا، ملک الموت آ کے رکتا ہے، آپ کیا جانے فاطمہ کیا ہے، آپ کیا جانے فاطمہ کیا ہے، آپ کیا جانے فاطمہ کیا ہے، اللہم صلی علی
محمد وآل محمد یا نبی سلام علیکم، یا علی سلام علیکم، حسنین و فاطمہ پر یا نور اللہ صلوات اللہ علیکم، یا نبی سلام علیکم، یا علی حسن جزاک اللہ، Ya Nur Allah, salawat. नूर हक से नूर अहमद सबसे बेहतर सबसे अमजद हो दुरूद हक से बेहद या रसूल अल्लाह सलावातुल्लाह या नबी या अली हसन या नूर अल्लाह सलावत या मुहम्मद नाम प्यारा अर्श पर हक ने पुकारा सच पैगंबर है हमारा या नूर अल्लाह सलावातुल्लाह या नबी या अली हसनैन या नूर अल्लाह सलावत ला फता इल्ला अली पर सोया बिस्तरे नबी पर या अली या अली या अली बरकते कदमे नबी पर या ऐनुल्लाह सलावत या नबी या अली हसन या नूर अल्लाह सलावत अफजल सलाम मुहम्मद वाल मुहम्मद محمد وآل محمد صلوات صلى على brothers and sisters assalamu alaikum on behalf of the entire community we'd like to extend our heartiest congratulations on this amazing celebration on the birth of the Lady of Light on the birth of who we call our mother of our ummah Bibi Fatima Zahra alayha salam Allahumma salli ala May Allah give us the opportunity to the ziyarah of all of our Ahlul Bayt, inshallah, and to find, inshallah, one day where we Fatima Zahra is buried, inshallah. Inshallah. We're so also honored as we're celebrating a special day as well today. This young man, Adam, that's sitting over here, today is the beginning of the celebration of the journey of your wedding, inshallah. Yeah? May Allah bless you, bless Bushra, and inshallah, may Allah grant you a long, happy life filled with love, inshallah. Yeah. And all the best wishes to you and to Bushra and all of the families that are involved in the upcoming wedding. inshallah everything will go perfectly well, and then inshallah we will see you here more often, Adam? I remember the days when you used to be here and recite Quran and recite dua, and inshallah we'll see more of that from you now moving forward. I sound like an old man up here now, Khalil. Wallahi, this is amazing. But once again, congratulations to you and Bushra and to all of your families, inshallah. Hasan. Also, I would be remiss if I didn't take this opportunity to thank our very own Dr. Hamid Mavani, who, Brother Hamid, after so long, we have the honor of having you with us once again. Thank you so much. Your speech and lecture was beautiful of how you connected the events of Bibi Fatima to how we should be living our lives today. Inshallah, we all learn from that message, and we'll learn more and more from you, inshallah. And I also would like to thank Brother Murtaza, who came to recite Manqabat for us today as well. Let's recite a loud salawat for all of our visitors and all of our guests today. Muhammad wa ali Muhammad salawat. On that note, we recited Surah Yasin earlier, and let's remember those that we celebrated these events with in the past that are no longer with us today. Let's remember all of our marhumeen from each one of our families, especially the marhumeen of the families that are joining today. The following marhumeen: Shaukat Ali and Layla Bai Kareem, Sakina Bai Muhammad Ali Haji Kareem, Fida Hussain and Layla Jivraj, Zubayda Sattar, also Sister Sajida Virji, and also Sister Sarah Mawani, who we're commemorating 1 year for, inshallah, the daughter of Brother Hamid Mavani, inshallah. Let's recite for them and for all of the marhumeens from our family, Surah Mubarakat al-Fatiha. Shia Muslim Council also is hosting an Islamic estate planning event, inshallah, on January 18th. For those that are interested, I know that flyers and emails will be out about that, but it's an important event for all of us to attend and to plan. So please do keep that in mind. I also, our treasurer would not be happy if I didn't mention that we're coming to the end of the year when many of us are maybe still looking for some tax deductions. And as you know, Sijla will accept those tax deductions in form of donation. So if you'd like to plan to have that, please do see either anyone from the executive committee, but Sister Fatima Bata or myself, inshallah. Also, we have lost and found a sister on the lady side has lost a ring. So if anybody finds a ring somewhere, please do bring it to Sister Fatima as well. On that note, I'd like to remind that we are having a beautiful dinner outside to celebrate this event as well as to celebrate Adam and Bushra. Please do join, hang out, have a great time, and we will see you at the next event, inshallah. We'll end the program tonight with ziyarah, inshallah. Muhammad wa ali Muhammad, salawat.
السلام عليك يا رسول الله، السلام عليك يا فاطمة الزهراء، السلام عليك يا علي المرتضى، السلام عليك يا خديجة الكبرى، السلام عليك يا حسن المجتبى، السلام عليك يا حسين الشهيد وابن الشهيد، السلام عليك يا علي زين العابدين، السلام عليك يا محمد باقر، السلام عليك يا جعفر الصادق، السلام عليك يا موسى الكاظم، السلام عليك يا علي الرضا، السلام عليك يا محمد تقي، السلام عليك يا علي النقي، السلام عليك يا حسن العسكري ورحمة الله وبركاته، السلام عليك يا صاحب العصر والزمان، الأمان الأمان الأمان، السلام عليك يا خليفة الرحمن، السلام عليك يا شريك القرآن، السلام عليك يا كعبة الإيمان، السلام عليك يا إمامنا وإمام الإنس والجان، عجل الله لك ما وعدك من الناس وظهور الأمر ورحمة الله وبركاته. اللهم صل على
Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. Allahumma kulli walika Hujjat ibn al-Hasan salawatuka alayhi wa ala ba'i fi hadhihi as-sa'a wa fi kulli sa'a وليا وحافظا وقائدا وناصرا وذليلا وعينا حتى تسكنه أرضك طوعا متمتعا فيها تريها برحمتك يا أرحم الراحمين.